like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio, radio with bite.
Hello and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I'm your host tonight, Rachel Edwards, and here with me is special guest Paul Elam, Allison Tiemann, Crystal Garcia, and Karen Strawn. Tonight's topic is the conference. So, how would you guys like to start out?
We could start with a round robin. Let's let Karen get the first stab at it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Karen. You always like to. Karen, are you there?
Karen's dead to us.
I don't know. I don't know about today. I don't know about today taking the lead. I am still recovering from that party in Detroit. I think there were some discussions going on kind of in the background about men's issues, but mostly it was just like, yeah, no. It was wonderful. It was absolutely incredible. It was really nice to meet a lot of people that I only knew previously by their usernames, and it kicked ass to be able to hang out for a lot of it with Aaron Pizzey and Senator Cools. They are literally they really are kick-ass ladies, and I was just so grateful that they were, they felt that I was worthy of. I guess I asked them, am I driving you to the venue tomorrow? And Senator Cools said, of course you are, dear. We've bonded with you. And it was just lovely. And so many of the speakers were really amazing. I think after I did my talk, I just wanted to collapse. And, I couldn't. I was sitting on the couch in the lobby of the VFW with Aaron Pizzey, and my eyes were closed, and I was trying to have a nap. Dean was asleep on the couch beside me, just exhausted. And I couldn't sleep because there was Robert Franklin and Terrence Popp, and they were talking, and it was just too intriguing and interesting to actually be able to have a nap. So it was just great. It was wonderful all around. It was, with a few little annoyances of my boyfriend sending me, did you see the MSNBC article, this, that, and the other thing, and having a glance at it. That was the one damper, the fact that the first pieces out were hit pieces. But other than that, it was just an amazing experience. It just was really, really wonderful. So,
yeah.
And anyone else?
Paul, can you tell us how the experience was for you?
It was a 3-day orgasm. That's what. For me. No, honestly, it's difficult for me to even describe. I had the good fortune of meeting Karen before. I met Allison Tiemann for the first time. And these were brief because I was so busy, and I was really, sorry that I didn't have more time to just hang out and talk. But meeting matter of fact, everybody in this discussion, except for Karen, I met for the first time. And it was, and that was one of about 50 or 60 people. So, that I was familiar with, had worked with for years, had come to know, but had not had an opportunity to meet. I met James Huff for the first time. It was an amazing, amazing thing. Not just for the fact that socially that I got to make some kind of a connection with all these people that I've come to admire for so long, but that also the event itself, the speakers. You talked about Ann Cools, and what a great, pardon the pun, cool person she is, but also what an incredible speaker and incredibly knowledgeable on this subject, on the stuff that we were dealing with. All of our speakers did well, despite the fact that we were under attack for the whole time. We had to do a venue change in the middle of things, and it all still went off, I think, fabulously well. And for me, it was very emotional. It was. It was also very exhausting. I got home and slept for 15 hours straight, because I really almost literally did not sleep during the conference itself. but it was an emotional high. It was an intellectual high. Some of these speakers, listening to Barbara Kay, listening to Stefan Molyneux, Karen, as usual, just always hits it out of the park. And of course, there was no exception this time. But for me, it was what I have to classify as one of the greatest things that I've ever participated in my life.
Yeah, I would say that I would actually describe it as very sort of emotional. I mean, it's really different. It's really kind of a contrast to look at these hit pieces and look at their description of the conference, and I guess our personal descriptions of the conference, because it's almost like they got sucked into some kind of parallel universe. Yeah. It really is. I'm like here I am, and this whole conference hall, the VFW, reminds me of my grandparents' house. You know, the sights, the smells, just that kind of homey feeling. And then they basically say that it's kind of a den of hate and misogyny. I don't know how to wrap my head around it. How would you describe the conference, Allison? Crystal, for you.
Well, it wasn't so amazing to be around so many MRAs. Like, my head almost just popped off. It was so exciting. And it was really great to meet you, Paul. It was such an honor. And I've read some of the articles, and the way I've looked at it is this is the first time most of those people actually came and saw. You know, so for them, it's just it blew their mind. They had no idea how to even process it because it's beyond what they've ever known ever. So the way I've been seeing it is I'm not even taking it as an offense, but actually as an acknowledgement. It was one of the articles that I was reading that was calling people radical and stuff like that. And I think they even called Paul radical. But I think the beauty of that is that the way I've seen Paul is such a strong stand for men and boys is that sadly in our society that is seen as radical, sadly enough. And I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as a good thing because we do need a complete rehaul of everything. So MRAs are still seen as radical in the society we live in. But I don't see that as bad. I don't see that as a slant or a slam because unfortunately, we do live in a society where everything is so skewed, you know, and this is very new. So I've been looking at it as at least they came to actually try and see for themselves that they weren't, you know, they actually tried to the beginning of it. And I don't feel like this is it. You know, I feel like this is just the beginning. I feel like people are going to come more and more and start questioning and start asking. So it may come off as a slant, but I'm not going to take it that way because this is something so beyond their world. This is something so beyond their realm, but at least they're getting their feet wet. So I'm not going to take it as this is the end. I'm taking this as this is the beginning. This is just the beginning of some really amazing conversations. And I loved it. I love being surrounded by MRAs. I love feeling the amazing conversations that were coming up and all of the brainstorming. So it was gold. It was gold, and I can't wait till the next one.
If I could something else, I'd like to too that I think that sort of put the zap on the heads of the media people that were there, and especially I noticed it real glaringly as I was watching the MSLSD video presentation of these two women discussing and trying to figure out, one, they attributed the word rapey to MRAs. We didn't make that up, ladies. That was feminists who coined that term. We have made fun of it. But the thing that got them, what I saw when I saw the guest on the show stutter, was when the host brought up about the women that were there. And I saw her struggling for an explanation of how to explain that why these women were there. And of course, it came back down to them in at least practicing true gender equity. They were calling them misogynists and what have you, and at least under patriarchal influence. But the thing that they saw that really put the zap on their head, and what is really putting the zap on everybody's heads that comes in ready to criticize the MRM, and in particular ABFM, is that they're seeing men and women build bridges with each other based on merit and based on mutual respect. And it's something that feminism promised and utterly failed to deliver. And they're seeing us do that. They're seeing us do that, and they don't have a clue what to do with it except attack the women that are in the movement. And it's almost comical to watch that. We have, and I know that I'm biased, okay? I know that I'm biased. But we have a group, when you look at people like Allison and Karen and all the honey badgers, and you look at people like Tara Palmatier, and you see Janet Bloomfield, and you see Aaron Pitsey and Senator Ann Cools and Barbara Kay. These are brilliant, brilliant women. They're independent and strong. They're not these obsequious little mice that the media would love to portray them to be. And here they are connecting with men who are direct enough and honest enough with them to hold them account for what they say, to measure them on their merits, not on their cup size. We're doing exactly what feminism claimed it would bring to the world, and it drives them fucking crazy. It's the most comical thing in the world to watch, that we're fulfilling what feminism promised and failed to deliver, and we're doing it right in front of them, and they don't know what to make of it. And to me, that is just the ultimate in human parodies.
Karen?
Karen, are you there? Go ahead, Karen.
Sorry, one of the things that the mention of the word rapey, as if we invented that. No, that's how we mock feminists and what they say we are. And I was actually posed this question by Vice while I was sweating it out, for an hour on a balcony in the hot sun, being grilled in front of a camera. They asked me, like, what about all the rape jokes? The rape jokes that you guys make here. Don't you think that's a little off-putting? And I'm like, we get called rapists all the time. We get called rape apologists, rape enablers, people who are pro-rape. If somebody accused me just for no good reason, that I eat kittens, right? I drink kitten smoothies for breakfast every morning. You know what I would do with that accusation is I would joke about how I drink 3 kitten smoothies before I leave the house every day, right? That is how you take the sting out of the accusation. That's how you take the power out of the accusation. Is you're like, oh, yeah, of course I eat kittens, right? Who doesn't, right? We live in a kitten-eating culture, don't we? Right?
Kitten culture.
Yeah, we live in a rape culture. Of course, everyone here is horrible, rapey bastards. And one of the most touching things was Jack Barnes uploaded a video just the other day, and he wanted to clarify because he went on a radio show and he was talking about his experiences at the conference, and he started to make a joke about hanging out in Karen Strawn's hotel room while she was in her underwear, and he wasn't able to finish the joke. The conversation went off from there in a different direction. And he wanted to absolutely clarify that when he said underwear, he meant, I put on my boyfriend's workout boxer shorts, right, that don't even have the Y flap in the front, because those are the shorts that I wear around the house. And we had gone up to my room because I can sit in a chair on the balcony and smoke rather than sitting on the curb, right? So he and Sage were in the hotel room. I was sitting out on the balcony in my boyfriend's boxer shorts, and he was joking about how he was with me in my underwear. And he felt like he needed to clarify the fact that there was nothing inappropriate going on in that hotel room. And just the fact that that I did not feel, not from a single man, I would have invited any of the attendees that I met there, that I talked to. I would have had no problem. And this is what I do at all the conferences I go to. And it's invariably, it invariably ends in a specific way is we're walking and we're talking, and I'm like, I have to go up to my room and change my clothes. Walk with me. I don't want to end the conversation. Let's just walk. And then I go into my hotel room and they hover outside the door. And I'm like, just don't stand outside the door. That's silly. Come on in. I'll go in the bathroom and change. And we carry on the conversation while I'm changing through the bathroom door. And then I might, invite them to sit down on the sofa. And then I'll Skype my boyfriend and talk to him. And, and the guy in my room will be part of the, there's never anything untoward. I'm just like, I don't ever have any kind of feeling that there is anything that's going to happen to me at one of these conferences from one of the attendees that I talk to. Whether they're, whether it's been libertarian conferences, whether it's been gender issues conferences, I've never had a feeling of being harassed. I've never had a feeling of being at risk. I've never had a feeling of being endangered or creeped out or anything like that. Right? And I have had those feelings before in my life. I have never, ever had that at one of these things. And, I just, when feminists are claiming that sexual harassment at conferences is just rampant, it's rampant, right, against women. And the only incident that we had that was barely a blip on the radar, right, and everyone handled it like adults, was, some kind of a guy hitting on men and making a little bit of a pest of himself, right? And we all handled it like adults. Nobody got upset about it, and everything was fine. Like I absolutely, it boggles my mind how safe I felt at this conference, how welcome I felt there, and how I did not feel like I had anything to worry about. The only people I had to worry about were journalists who were going to try and trick me into saying something that they could take out of context.
Well, the thing is that anything you say can really be, I remember talking to the guy from GQ, and he went at length about their fact-checking process and how that they make sure that every quotation is exact. And I'm like, well, and I'm thinking to my mind, this doesn't put me at ease, because I know that no matter what I say, you can get an exact quote out of what I say and it'll sound horrible. But it's like, it's just the way they roll. But I wanted to agree, Karen. Everything was completely on the level, and I hope for the men as well, like that they didn't feel intimidated by us, or I don't know, that we gave off a rapey vibe. Oops, I used the word rapey.
Yeah,
but it's like it's totally like Rachel was saying. It's like they entered in a parallel dimension when they were talking about this conference. And I think it's because in a lot of ways we were threatening their sense of identity. They have invested a lot in the word feminism, and they've invested a lot in their beliefs about being victims as women. And when you challenge that, that feels like it's a threatening atmosphere, because that's their safe space. They think that is their safe space, is their little. The only thing I can compare it to is if the people who I don't want to say other people, but who have very, very profoundly paralyzing agoraphobia, who end up living in their bathroom. This is what they've constructed in their own minds, and we're opening the door, and they're terrified.
They want to turn the whole world into their bathroom.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? Is they want to turn the entire world into their echo chamber. Right?
Yeah.
Where everything that is said, everything that is done, does not make them uncomfortable. And, it really, it's a horrible thing to see. And no less, I think it was Afterburner on PJ Media. And for the life of me, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's done some really awesome work. He compared trigger warnings and where they're taking us to the Eloi, right? That, that basically our amygdalas are so atrophied, right? The less unpleasantness there is in life, the less it takes to offend you and to really upset you. And it's not because of anything righteous or any kind of logical thing. It's because our amygdalas are atrophying, right? So what used to take, a guy 200 years ago, what used to offend him would be like a capital offense to some of these very, very pampered and very coddled young people who've been brought up in an education system where nobody's allowed to hurt anybody's feelings, and conflicts are always to be diverted or avoided in some way, and you never let two people settle their differences, whether it's with harsh words or with fists. You never ever do that, and you always go and get an adult to step in, and all of these things. We have really, really trained young people to not be able to handle even just the slightest discomfort. And the less discomfort there is, the less it takes to set off their panic response. And then all of a sudden, all it takes is some women speaking at a men's conference, or the very idea of men having a men's conference, and everybody is screaming blue murder like we've been throwing babies up in the air and catching them on our bayonets.
Yeah, it's I think, like I said, it's really the idea of questioning that identity as a victim. As I was watching the MSNBC, you got Paul, when you said it, you got LSD in there somewhere. I don't know if that was intentional. It was really funny though.
Oh no, I would never say anything intentional disparaging about the mainstream media, in particular MSLSD. But I do want to tell you that we have plans for the next conference. I mean, there are very few certainties about the next conference, and not much that we can nail down, except for three things in particular. One, we are going to have it. That much is nailed down. Two, have already begun speaking with Typhon because I want to have a stronger, more visible presence of the honey badgers at the next conference. And three, we're going to make an effort to make media that comes there feel much more comfortable. And so what we're planning on doing at the next venue is having a quiet media room set up. One, we had some problems with people tracking in and out during interviews, and it caused noise and confusion. And so we're going to set up a room where media can do interviews with people in air conditioning, so that it's comfortable for everybody. But we're also going to set out treats for them. We're going to have a big table that will have a big yellow tablecloth on it, and it will have yellow donuts and a yellow lemon cake and bananas and very bright yellow lemonade just for the media.
Yeah,
no. Will it have yellow fedoras as well? Some yellow fedora giveaways?
Actually, I need a fedora.
You might as well.
Yellow fedora is a great idea, but we want them to feel at home. And if they get their notebook, we will have yellow legal pads set up so that they can take notes with their yellow number 2 pencils. But we want the media to feel welcome and to let them know just how we feel about them when they get there.
The press passes will all have yellow lanyards, and
yes.
they'll all be yellow paper. And that would be beautiful. And the yellow fedora actually would be a wonderful parting gift for any media personnel show up.
We could have a little press card in the hat breath.
I don't want to gross anybody out, but I have to point out that urine is also yellow.
Yeah. That's true.
Wow.
And I don't think it'll affect. So I'm going to tell everybody before you come to the next conference, don't drink the lemonade in the media room.
Oh God!
Urine might actually be the source of the association of yellow with cowardly.
Yeah. We want them to feel welcome. We want them to feel at home, and most of all, we want to remind them that we know why they're there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to follow up with that one, Paul. But I wanted to make a statement about moving away from all this talk of yellow. and making the. But just listening to these two women try to chew their way through the idea of men or women advocating for men's rights and women wanting to take responsibility for protecting, and this is what we're doing. We're protecting or trying to do what we can to bring attention to and protect men's vulnerabilities. The idea that, and they just, it was just such beyond them. And if they will indulge me the luxury of psychoanalyzing them like they were trying to psychoanalyze us, I think on a fundamental level, you're right, Paul. They're cowards, and those two women are cowards. They can't imagine a world in which men aren't stronger than them. The very thought of a world in which men have vulnerabilities, men have weaknesses, women have to step up to the plate and help men out terrifies them, because they just can't handle the thought that men are actually in some cases not completely and utterly invulnerable and practically omnipotent. And this is how they see themselves in relation to men. They see themselves as children who have to be taken care of. And anytime a man shows a vulnerability, they react like a child whose parent can't be strong for them. They react with fear and anger, and they get aggressive because they don't have that feeling of strength and security that they need. And to witness women who can actually say, yeah, men have vulnerabilities, and sometimes we have to step up to the plate and have men's backs. It just must blow their minds.
I think you short-circuited them completely, Typhon. I really do. I don't think they knew, and they still don't know. You could tell by that MSNBC interview, they don't know what to do about you guys, which has always been my theory of why women are, particularly women like this group and the ones we have at ABFM, who are so strong and intelligent and independent, is what do you do with that? How do you criticize that? And they are scrambling like junkies looking for spare change in the couch for anything that they can come up with in order to go after you guys, and none of it is worth it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. With MSNBC, me and Rachel were interviewed.
Yeah.
And the guy from MSNBC asked me, because I'm an ex-sex worker, he came up to me and he said something to the effect of, I can't quote him specifically, but he said, oh, well, considering that you were in the sex industry and you guys experienced the most misogyny, and I just looked at him like, what? He's like, how did that affect your view on this issue? And I'm like, well, actually, as a sex worker, men would come to me and tell me, I'm so glad I can talk to a woman about this, because I can't talk to other women about this. I can't talk to my wife about this. I can't talk to my girlfriend about this. So that started to open my eyes, because I saw that men did not feel safe with the women around them. So to tell me that I experienced the most misogyny, fuck you. No, I didn't. My eyes started to open towards what men were experiencing and how unsafe they felt, not the other way around.
Yeah.
How did he react to
absolutely. That? Oh, go on, Paul.
I was just asking Crystal how that he reacted to that.
How he reacted to that? He was kind of like, oh, huh. And I had this glimmer of hope that he might kind of get it, but apparently he did not. It was too confronting for him to even mention in the article.
Would it be fair to say, and I know that I'm a guest here, not a host, but I still have to ask, would it be fair to say that he did not know how to handle a strong woman?
Yeah, I think he was completely baffled by the fact that, he had stuck so close to his sex workers' experienced misogyny, that men are sexually evil, that he had no clue how to handle what I was telling him, that he was just completely baffled by the fact that I could say there was no what are you talking about? I am experiencing misogyny? No, actually, I got a glimpse into misandry. So his view was completely wrong, and I really don't think he knew how to handle the fact that his story that he had been told, because I also told him the people about sex workers have never been sex workers for the most part, or were unhealthy sex workers who could not acknowledge the fact that they shouldn't have been in the industry to begin with. The people who are talking about sex workers are not the real sex workers who choose to do it, who enjoyed what they were doing, who enjoyed their time with men. And the fact that women want to be sexual and can enjoy themselves sexually with a man is so completely out of their league. Like, they can't even fathom that a woman would want to enjoy that. So I don't think he knew how to handle what I was telling him at all.
Well, it's not just that, because when you're talking about men saying, men coming to you for sexual services, and I've experienced this with some guys that I've seen over my life as just a person who was sexually free and wasn't really very concerned with what the neighbors thought. And I would have men who would come to me, and the sex was maybe in some ways necessary to allow them to open up. But the whole reason why they were there was so that they could open up to a woman that they felt safe with.
Right. Yeah.
And share their fears and share their angst and share how they really don't want their family to know that they failed at their marriage, even though it's their wife who's stepping out. And I've been on the couch downstairs for 2 years, and every time I leave work to go to camp to earn what my family needs, she's out in the bar with all of these guys, and I don't want my family to know that I failed because I feel like it's my failure. And all of those things, right? And so you have this man who maybe needs the sex or maybe needs the physical intimacy in order to open up. But once he's opened up, he's talking about all of the most visceral fears and anxieties and all those things, and he's only doing it because he feels that it's safe for him to do that with you. And what that does, right? Actually saying this is how this works, right, is saying, as a woman, as a woman or as a sex worker or whatever, right, I have the power in this relationship, and that man knows it, right, and he's trusting me not to abuse it, right, but I have the power to smash him into little pieces, and this is really. This is something that a lot of men cannot. A lot of men cannot wrap their heads around, is that women have power over them. That the relationship that they have been told has been men on top, women subordinated. They've been told this their whole lives, right? Especially if they're under the age of 30, right?
Karen,
yeah.
I want to let you finish, but I think we need to talk to Paul a little more while we got him.
Okay. All right.
All right. Paul, I actually have at least 1 or 2 questions of my own I would actually like to ask you. Could you actually tell us a little more in detail what sort of hurdles you had to go through to get this conference to even happen? Because I think a lot of people at home would like to know, because I know a lot of it has been sort of hush-hush. But if you could enlighten us a little bit.
Sure, I'll do my best. There are a couple things I can't talk about. The first thing I want to do is go back and make a brief comment, though, on something Karen and Crystal were just saying. I also want to point out the irony of men who are in horrible relationships, abusive relationships, frequently with women, that may turn to a sex worker so that for some sort of sexual connection or for the emotional realm of just being connected to a woman for a period of time who's not judging them and telling them they didn't take out the fucking trash the right way, and to have somebody accept them for a few minutes. And how ironic it is that they are discovered doing this, they're viewed as even more of a loser. I think that's a horrendous shame. Just wanted to say that. But to move on, what hurdles did I have to overcome well, oh boy, I'm going to try to keep this efficient and brief, but it's a difficult, long question. One, we had to overcome the hurdle of unity in the men's movement for any of this to happen. We had to overcome the hurdle of what the men's movement was, which was an ineffectual group of mostly men, mostly, I think, traditional conservatives. Not that I have anything against that at all. I respect men that live those lives, and I'm fine with that. But what I discovered in the beginning as I entered the men's movement online was that the online discourse about men's issues was governed not by men going their own way, not by MRAs, so to speak, but by traditionalists who and many of whom I think pined for some imagined days of glory that men had lived at some point that never really existed. But they did want their old position back in life, a la Ward Cleaver. I thought that had to change, and I'm proud to say that I worked very hard at changing that, at understanding that this was a movement that feminism and the negative aspects of misandry, which are all negative, and the negative impact of some elements of traditional lifestyles didn't just impact men and boys. They hurt women. They hurt mothers. They hurt sisters. They hurt daughters. They hurt wives and girlfriends, particularly second wives in so many ways. And the first hurdle to overcome was to break away from that old first wave school of thought of how this women shouldn't speak in the men's movement, blah, 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 and get over that and invite women into the discourse. I remember talking with Jeff, I forget his last name, of GQ magazine, and he asked me how I felt about the women in there that supported what we were doing, as though it was a group of men doing something and a bunch of women making sandwiches in order to support us. And I had to correct him and tell him that these were not women supporting the movement, that these were our partners and fellow activists. And he did finally seem to get that. The next thing we had to do was get over the biases against gay men, and to start reaching out to them and bringing them into the fold, because I firmly believe that the set of rules that have affected men negatively in this culture historically are the same set of rules that ended up with us burning gay men at the stake and leading them into the gas chambers at Auschwitz. People can agree with that or disagree with it. That is what I believe. So we had to become inclusive. We had to cross racial lines. We had to cross religious lines. We had to cross political lines and abandon all these normal areas with which human beings just love to divide themselves and argue with each other, usually for somebody else's financial benefit. Once we did that, once that started happening, then anything was possible. In terms of specific hurdles to the conference, we had to overcome people threatening to kill us. We had to overcome people threatening to kill people who had anything to do with us or who would let us stay at their hotel. We used techniques which we will use again, like not telling people where staff and speakers are staying, spreading out conference attendees to different hotels so that one individual business can't be attacked. We had to be willing to transport people. Somebody brought up Jack Barnes earlier. People have no idea how much this guy ran around the clock, getting people from airports, transporting them from hotels, taking them back to airports. He was an absolute madman in getting that done. And what we had to do more than anything else was demonstrate the resolve that we would not take one defeat, and make no mistake about it. We wanted to have this at the DoubleTree. We wanted to have it happen there. It became impossible because of the hateful, vitriolic, threatening interference of gender ideologues. But what we had to do was rebound from that and come back and just not give up. And we ended up happy that we were at that VFW hall instead of being at the DoubleTree. It seated more people. The management there was more friendly. The police came out and put a police tape line around the property, which sent a pretty strong message. But don't come in here unless you want to leave in handcuffs. We had to do a lot of things very quickly that involved so many people working around the clock to get it done that I almost couldn't list all the obstacles. But I think the biggest thing that we had to overcome in order to have this conference and future conferences is to understand that the issues that we addressed don't just affect men. They don't just affect boys. They affect our daughters, our mothers, our sisters, our brothers, fathers, uncles, husbands. Everybody is affected by these issues. And once we started getting that message out there, A Voice for Men started growing exponentially. We started to see things like honey badgers happening, not just individual female bloggers, but the women coming together. Now we have the LCSW, the Organization for Women for Shared Parenting. I forget their actual name. They now have a senator on board. A lot of miraculous things have happened because we have focused ourselves as a human rights movement instead of just a narrow set of issues that we think might affect men and boys. And I know that wasn't brief, but that was as short as I could keep it.
Oh, thank you very much. Actually, I wanted to personally thank you for everything that you've done and just everybody who was involved with bringing this conference together. Okay. I know there are too many people to really just go out and name, but really, I think I want to thank everybody because I really think that this really started the dialogue between the sexes that needed to happen. And whether or not they're okay with it, the people in the media, that I don't think that really matters. I think what matters is that people are going to see that, and they're going to come to us, and they're going to see what we're really about, and I think it's just a great start.
It is a great start, and there are too many people to thank. That's why we thank them in groups. Warren, when he got up to speak, he had everybody stand. He had me stand and Dean Esme stand, and then he went by departments, from the news department to multi-siting to technical operations, because we knew if we tried to thank everybody that some people would be missed and it might cause some hurt feelings. But there are, and we thank the honey badgers for talking about this constantly, for putting the focus on what was happening and why it needed to happen, and for defending us. There's way too many people to thank. And I'm believing very strongly that next year there will be twice as many involved in this. That's our goal. We want twice as many in attendance. We want a minimum of 750 people. I'm shooting for 1,000, and I believe fully that we will get there.
I'm glad to hear that. Does anybody else have any questions for Paul?
Well, I actually wanted to thank Paul. Yeah. It was an amazing undertaking, and you guys pulled it off, and thank you. And thank you for giving a platform for men's rights. And thank you for not giving up, because it could have been easy to give up after the DoubleTree and all of the stuff that was happening. It's easy to just let them win. And the reality is that because you broke this ground and you set this flag, they have to deal with it. And each year, they're going to have to deal with it a bit more, and a bit more, and a bit more. And then you just wait them out. And one year, you're going to see the same faces from the or maybe new faces from the media. And 1 year, they may be on our side, because they'll just have beat their head against that wall and have just had to come to accept the fact that we're here now. And we are bringing a different message to the table of gender, and one that I think is a lot healthier than the blame game. So I just wanted to thank you and thank everybody at AVFM for staying the course. Well,
you're welcome, and I will just say it now for the record. I'm pledging it. We're never quitting. When I quit, will be the day that you guys plant me somewhere, and there will be people there to take my place. This is not stopping for anything, in any form or fashion. The days when gender ideologues own the discourse on what's happening between men and women and on gender issues are fucking over. And they're over for good.
And I just want to acknowledge you, Paul, because I see how much backlash you get, and I just see what a terrific stand you are for men and boys, and it's really amazing to watch you, and just I can't imagine how much intensity it is for you to be dealing with all of this, but I just want to really acknowledge you, and what you're doing is just phenomenal and amazing that you created all of this, and listening to how your story with Warren Farrell and everything was really inspiring. So thank you for what you do.
Well, you're welcome. And part of it I will attribute to the fact that I'm not a citizen of the United States. I'm a citizen of Texas. And we're a pretty stubborn lot down here.
Awesome.
Guys.
Awesome.
Yes,
but stubborn is good.
Stubborn
makes changes.
We should probably Hannah Wallen has come back from the dead.
Yeah.
To join us. So
zombie culture.
Yeah.
Hey Hannah.
Did you want to add anything to this, Hannah? I don't want to step on Rachel's toes, but
no, that's fine. I actually wanted to see if Hannah had anything to say.
So you guys think alike. But I'm really grateful also, Paul. I'm really glad to see this happen. And it was just amazing to be there and to see everybody come together and listen to people discussing the issues in small groups, and to get to talk to some of the people in person that we talked to, through this medium. And it was an amazing experience, and I can hardly wait till next year.
Let me add something to that, Hannah, to talk about because, we've certainly, and I think, given thanks where they're due to the staff of ABFM, but also, and to the Honey Badgers, other people that were integral to making this event happen, but also to the attendees. I remember at one point just before the event, we got into a little bit of a panic because we were ending the event on the day's activities on Friday at around 6 o'clock, and we had to tear down all the chairs and make it available to set up for a banquet with totally different seating and tablecloths and food set out and everything. And oh my God, how were we going to tear down all those chairs in that short period of time? But I had already had, 100 emails from people who were saying, if there's anything I can do, let me help. And I was able to tell my team before that, I said, you do not worry about that. At the end of the day, I will ask people to tear down chairs, and they will have that room cleared in 5 minutes. And I knew it would happen. And that's exactly what happened. I asked people if they would pitch in and tear down the chairs. And before I could even finish the sentence, people were up and working. Our attendees at this conference were amazing. They put up with the transportation hassles, with the change of venue. They rented cars where they weren't going to have to do that before. They went through extra expense. I didn't get a single complaint, not one. Now, can you imagine that? I did not get a single complaint from any attendee about the extra effort that they had to go through. And when we asked them to pitch in and help us set up for the banquet, it was done in just minutes. So, I mean, this really was a community coming together. And that's the most promising thing of all. And what we want to continue with the next one. Yes, folks, next banquet, next event, our next conference, there will be another free banquet. We will feed everybody. We'll pull everybody together, and we'll make it work smoother than we did the first time. But it was everybody from the top all the way down to the last person who purchased a ticket that made this thing an incredible success.
It was really neat to sort of see the way everybody pulled together. And they did it over and over again. They did it every single time we hit a bump. Every single time something came up, the community pulled together again. And probably one of the most amazing things was, how quickly people pitched in. When we needed help with something, whether it was, the security that DoubleTree was going to make us get, or the chairs that needed moved, or somebody had a question about where's the restroom or something. There was always somebody that was like right there. Boom, I'm ready to help. And it just seems like that's what this community is.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I'm going to repeat it again. We needed to raise money for security, 25,000 plus in 22 hours. That says something about our community, and a lot of the money, even some of the $1,000 donations to that fundraiser came from people who were not able to attend.
Yeah, there really was the sense of community. I really did feel that going in, and I didn't know what I expected when I got there, because you never know how people are going to be when you meet them in real life, as opposed to on the internet. And they were so wonderful and warm and just approachable across the board. And they really did help out. Actually, I don't know if I can do this, and he doesn't know that I'm doing this right now, but I actually want to give a special thanks to Samich Eist from Men's Rights Halifax. And this was not planned, so don't kill me, Samich.
Yes, we love you, Samich!
Yeah, he actually pitched in. He gave rides to lots of speakers, to the Honey Badgers. He pitched in our time of need when we accidentally locked the keys in the trunk of the car, and helped us out. Fandangle, I think it was the fuse or the battery, and out of the car to try and trick the car into opening the trunk. And then we made it to the banquet, not the banquet, the pub at a reasonable hour. He didn't have to. He could have gone back. He could have done anything, but he didn't. He chose to stay with us, getting bit up by mosquitoes as it was getting dark in Detroit. Yeah. And I really want to thank him. And you can support him by helping out with mensrightshalifax.com. I think you can contribute over there if you want to, or just, And
please do.
Yeah, because you didn't have to.
And another thing, Samich Eist, some people don't know it. He has been part of the ABFM meme team that has driven us from 3,000 to over 12,000 likes on Facebook right now in a matter of a few months. By creating very, very thought-provoking and well-designed graphic memes for us to put on that page. This guy never stops working. He doesn't. So you're damn right. He deserves some thanks, and he deserves a lot of our gratitude.
Yeah. So Samich, here's our shout out for you. Here's our leg up, like I promised. I don't have. I don't really. Awesome. I wanted to be able to give you a couple bucks. I didn't have any to give you for gas, but here's your leg up.
Again, evil FemRA. You're a shitty MRA. How dare you?
I also want to give a shout out to Jack Barnes because, I was sort of, I was joined at the hip with Erin Pizzey and Senator Cools while she was there for most of the time, but Erin's wheelchair would not fit in my vehicle. And Jack stepped in and made sure that Erin's wheelchair went where she went, and he also stepped in and made sure that Senator Cools's file folder went where she went. And he was just absolutely phenomenal. Always just available to, just on call all the time to do what needed to be done, and that was just amazing too. Yeah.
Speaking of that, let me tell you that yesterday I got a call, and it was somebody on the line saying that Senator Cools is holding and would like to speak with you. And of course I said, well, let me see if I'm busy right now. No, actually, I did not say that to the senator. I said, of course, I'll speak with her right away. She wanted to pass along, and she was most sincere about this, that she very much wants to come be a part of the next conference. And two, that everybody there, and I suspect that Karen has a lot to do with this because I know she spent a lot of time with the senator, and Aaron, and there were other people that did that she never felt so welcome. She thought it was an incredible group of people. She wants to be associated with us, and she wants to help us further this message in the future. So kudos to Karen for staying there with her and for keeping her engaged and making her feel welcome, because I simply did not have time to stop the whole time we were there.
It's really not a hardship to sit in the hotel lobby and sip wine with Senator Cools and Aaron Pizzi, right? It's really
somebody had to do it, Karen.
I guess somebody did, and I stepped up to the plate or the bottle, so to speak. So.
She really liked you.
I wanted to interject. Jack also was there to help us out with the car. The guys really stepped up to help us out with that. And it was kind of a neat thing to see, too, because Rachel found the solution, a YouTube video with a solution and to the problem. And when it didn't work right away, the guys figured out an alternative way to achieve the same thing from outside the car instead of inside the car. And Jack also spent a very long day on Thursday helping people get where they needed to go, including me. And he was at the very last minute when he was, getting ready to get something to eat. That's when he got the call to come and get me. And so he was really kind to come and get me. And then Samich, at the last minute before he had to get on his plane, was dropping both me and Emil off on at the bus stop. Come to find out, we didn't go to the same bus stop, and he just took it in stride, took care of things. So those two guys really, really pulled a lot of weight that weekend. And I don't think a lot of people noticed, but they really did a lot.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it wasn't a YouTube video. I think it was actually a blog from like a locksmith sort of situation.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of crazy though, because we basically had to hack a car to get it open, because I don't know if you know much about a Hyundai Sonata, but apparently we found out that we can't actually open the trunk, because if roadside assistance comes along, and I may be wrong on this, if they come along and they open the truck, it goes into sort of security mode, so it's locked down. The trunk is like a tank, and you actually have to trick the car into recognizing when you push the button up front and opening the trunk, because we had a lot of important things, and Allison can probably tell you that we had a lot of valuable stuff back there, and they weren't going to leave without it.
If anything ever happens to Fort Knox, they can put the gold bullion in the trunk of that car, and it will be safe.
Yeah, it was a baffling car, because not only, I mean, fair enough, it had a trunk release in the trunk, but why didn't it have a trunk, like you could pull the back seat of the car seats down to access the trunk? That was the confusing part. You have the trunk release in the trunk in case, I don't know, the South Korean mafia puts you in the trunk. But why wouldn't you have tabs that allow you to pull the seats down when you are inside the cab of the car? Anyway, it
obviously a scheme of the patriarchy.
Yeah, yeah, it was quite the puzzle. But I actually wanted to give a shout out to Rachel and Crystal and Hannah for actually at that point in time I was pretty stressed, and you guys really pulled through for me and supported me, and I really appreciate actually, Crystal, when I asked you, when I said, you can go with Samich to go to the bar, that you said, no, I'm not leaving without you. And I really appreciated that. And I also appreciated, Hannah, you supporting me. It was a female moment. I was just getting so frustrated that I started to cry, and it's just, I just appreciated all of you and what you guys did to help me out, and not leaving. I really appreciated that.
We weren't going to leave you.
Yeah, where were we going to go? Detroit? Oh, wait.
I've got to
No,
ask
there's
Allison.
no way.
I've got to ask Allison if a lot of people got a chance to see the artwork that she brought there. She gifted me with a stack of these enlarged, as people have seen on the site and other places. Allison had taken images of many AVFM members and honey badgers and others and converted them with some beautiful graphic work into larger images. I now am in the process in my office because she gave me several that were me. I'm going to have the wall of Paul in my office, and it's almost like feeling like I'm putting up a wall that says I'm a women's study major because it's all about me. But it's really, really beautiful stuff. And I was hoping that a lot of that got around. Did it, Allison? Did a lot of people get to see that?
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to apologize if you can hear my cat. He's begging for me to let him out. But yeah, there was I mean, I think a few people saw it up when we had them all. I think it was Crystal who probably put them all out on that table. And I did actually give a bunch of people some of the art prints. I gave one to Janet, one to Dean. I gave a stack to Aaron as well. And also I ended up talking to Warren Farrell for a bit and showing him my portfolio, and he expressed some interest in my art. So, I mean, I don't know how many people saw it, but I'm happy with that. Like, I don't really, I didn't really go to show off my art. It was just, I wanted to show people appreciation by giving them, some portraits of them. So.
Well, it was deeply felt on this end. A really beautiful gift, and your talent is amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's sort of funny because if you tie that into what the MLSD people were saying, that we're starved for attention and we really want attention. Well, to be honest, I could probably get attention if I just worked at my, just put my art out there, and I do get attention from my art. I originally had a channel that was devoted to my installation work, and until the puzzle pieces video, that installation work that I did was my great, like it had more views than anything I've done on the Typhon channel. So it's like it's not really, for me, it's not really about attention. It's sort of baffling that they would think that, because there's so much easier ways to get attention. For example, you could do what Dark Horse did, Dark Swore, or whatever she calls herself. You could wear a pair of hot pants and a low-cut shirt and get lots more male attention than espousing some very non-mainstream views of gender that they actually acknowledge men's vulnerabilities. A lot of guys don't really find that flattering. But I'm going to throw this out to someone else because my cat is going nuts here, and
Actually,
and you know how long the life expectancy is of a kitten around here. So
yeah. And for those people who are saying more pook, well, you're getting more pook. But I gotta.
Allison, stay here for one more minute.
The life expectancy of
as long as we're giving shout outs to Sandwich Heist and the other honey badgers and to Jack Barnes and to all of the people involved, I really need to give a shout out to you because you pulled together all of the stuff, the fundraiser, the table, all of the stuff, the posters, the t-shirts, all of those things. You pulled it all together. You freaking did that. That is something that if anybody left something like that in my hands, I would just commit suicide. I would stab myself in the face rather than do what you had to do to pull all of that together. And that was just one of the most amazing things is how you managed to get all of that arranged and keep all of everything sorted out and keep all of the numbers, in order and keep all of us updated on what was going on and all of that. Like, I am not a logistical person. I just go where they tell me. And at this point, according to Aaron, I shouldn't even bother writing speeches because I can do just fine without them. But you did something that I would find it next to impossible to do, and I just want to thank you for that, because that was just amazing, having that table there, having all of that stuff there. It was just unbelievable, and I just want to thank you for all the hard work you put in.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Rachel and Paul.
Lots of love from this end. You did amazing stuff, Allison, and I don't think it's ever been recognized to the degree that it should. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. It's not just the organizational stuff. I've seen a couple of criticize you a couple of times, saying they didn't even understand what you were talking about. And my standard response is, that's because she's 17 times smarter than you. Yeah. And I don't mean that facetiously, because she's 17 times smarter than me too. But for somebody of your intellect and skills and capacity to dedicate to doing what you did is really phenomenal, and we are tremendously grateful.
Thank you. Oh, I'm glad that you guys were able to come.
I'm just having a moment right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. It's because I have just, this is a very personal thing. Like, I have issues with being social, so in some ways this is how I care for people, is to try to help them in this way and arrange this kind of stuff, because sometimes it's intimidating for me to just hang out with people and to talk with people. I know you probably noticed during the conference that I spent most of my time either doing table related stuff or running around doing errands. It's just, and it's really appreciated that you notice.
No, we notice.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely noticed.
Oh, Allison, we love you so much.
You're amazing. You're one of the MRA All-Stars. My God, I was geeking out all freaking weekend.
Actually, like, Karen talked about geeking out with, like, Aaron Pizzi and Cools. I'm totally geeking out around Karen and Allison and everybody, and see, it's like mutual geekery. We're just completely like,
I know,
okay,
like,
if we really let ourselves think about it, our heads are just gonna explode.
I know. I almost exploded. I'm around Allison Tiemann, I'm around Karen Strawn, Paul Elam, Judgy Bitch, all of these, like, MRA All-Stars, and freaking Warren Farrell. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can handle all of this at once. Oh my God, I think I'm gonna explode. We're still used, so we're we're still geeking out, because this is freaking, like, MRA, like, geek out session. I ended up actually being kind of a lurky, kind of creepy, because I'm like, I don't know what to say, because I'm so overwhelmed. Like, I can't go up to your table because I'm geeking out right now.
Was it just me, or did anybody else notice that in the whole crowd, it seemed like people were walking around in a geek daze?
Yes! I was definitely one of them. I'm all like, hi, should I say hi? I don't know if I should say hi, hello. So I was definitely geeking out. I didn't really know how to approach people, so I kind of like looked like kind of Mr. Burns, kind of like lurking. I'm like, hey. So I don't know.
Imagine how I felt Friday. Everybody breaks for lunch. There's like this exodus of people from the venue, right? And I'm about to go and try and attach myself to a group of people who are all going out to some place for lunch. And I get pulled aside by this person and that person, and they want to talk to me. And by the time I'm done, I look up and everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. I'm like, am I really going to have lunch all by myself? Am I really going to have to go find a place to eat lunch all by myself? So I go upstairs. And in the media room, I think Steve Brule was setting up cameras, and Terrence Pop, I would like to say he was sitting, but he doesn't generally sit, he generally sprawls. And he was sprawled there with Steve Brule, and I was just like, everybody's gone, and I don't have anybody to go for lunch with. And he's like, oh yeah? And I'm like, Terrence, would you come for lunch with me? And he's like, let's go. Right?
Nice.
See, I wish I would have known. I wanted to buy Karen a drink. To show my gratitude, you know?
Well, it's so awesome. I got to meet like Dean Esme and everybody. And then I'm standing there at the buffet across the way from Aaron Pizzi picking up fried chicken. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I say? I'm holding a piece of fried chicken across from Aaron Pizzi.
Well,
Paul, did you have any moments like that?
I had nothing but moments like that. I mean, understand that, that people like Aaron Pizzi and people like Senator Coles and Warren Farrell and still Allison and Karen and several others are people that I regard in my life as much as I like to fuck with them. I regard them as some of the greatest thinkers and greatest activists that have ever lived. That's my real impression of them. I hide that with a lot of snarkiness because I talk more often to Karen and Typhon than I do to people like Aaron and Senator Coles. But the fact of the matter is that looking out across the room and seeing Karen and Senator Coles and Aaron Pizzi and Warren Farrell in the same place, I'm sitting there saying, oh my God, I don't belong here. I'm not worthy. That's how it felt.
The one who made it happen.
It doesn't make any difference when you're still geeked out and looking at all the awesomeness of these people. And the only part of it for me that was really cocky at all was knowing that I played a role in making it happen. I did not make it happen. I am not the one who made it all happen. There were a lot of people, but knowing that we were going to do this again was the icing on the cake, that this is just the beginning. We are now a movement, and we're a movement of some of the greatest thinkers I've ever known in my life. And, it just felt like that the whole time. It was amazing. As a matter of fact, I was angry. I had media. I couldn't even get up and go to the bathroom without somebody saying, can you talk to me now? And it was aggravating and frustrating because I didn't get to spend time with people that have become my friends, and I didn't have time to sit with Erin. And I know she was asking for that to happen. And it was frustrating because I didn't have time, but I've learned from my experience, the next conference that we have, I'm going to be getting there much earlier. So is AVFM staff. We're going to be more organized and more prepared. And I am going to have time I saw Crystal Garcia and said, I know her. And I ran over and got a hug and left.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was like, that was Paul Elam. I just got a hug for Paul Elam. It's awesome.
I
was kind of lurking around you for a while.
I got to hug everybody else.
Paul.
I got to hug everybody else.
Honey Badgers, Crystal is hot. I wanted to stay and talk to her. And
I wanted to talk to you. I was like so kind of like MRA all-star struck. I'm like, how do I talk to Paul? I don't know. I'm just going to lurk like a little creeper. So I didn't really
I only said like one sentence things because I'm like, oh my God, you're Paul Elam. And I'm like, you're as tall as they said you were. and the second time I'm like, I like your tie.
And that was the perfect thing to say because I'd just gone on a trip in Italy and saw that tie in a shop and spent a freaking fortune on it and took it home and thought, is this really any better than any other tie I had? But I got lucky. I got like 5 compliments on that tie, so I felt a lot better about the money I
bet you
did. It was
did.
a cool tie.
I wanted to say, I think I was thinking about this a while back, and I realized I think that men's rights, or the men's issues, or the kind of gender-related issues that we think and talk about, are possibly the most geeky of geeky things. If you think about it, it's this sort of obscure it's an obscure body of knowledge with all kinds of statistics and different approaches, and it's got it's like, you know, like it's thinkers that are not really widely known, but it's all very, very complex and in a lot of ways it's esoteric. So I think that ultimately, like instead of being like the ultimate like misogynists, I think we're just the ultimate geeks, because we just have our little area of geekiness, and and people don't understand it, because most geeks are just like really focused on the rational and the factual and all the statistical information about their particular passion. And everybody thinks that we're misogynists because we're brushing up against their emotional biases, but we're actually just really, 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 really geeky.
Yeah. Remember that people used to feel the same way in the antebellum South when you talked about slavery being wrong. It did. It messed with their brains on the same level. These were people that used the Bible for justification for slavery. They used all kinds of rationale and how that the South could never produce anything, and it would be a horrifically poverty-stricken area of death if they didn't allow slavery. So to talk about abolition in that group, the same mentality, the same reaction, people are like, what do you mean? What do you mean slavery is wrong?
Well,
and that's what we're dealing with. And that also makes it a lot easier to fuck with.
Well, on top of that, you know, one of the things that I noticed about this conference was that, at least in my case, and I'm sure in several other speakers' cases, we were more interested in talking with the attendees than with the press.
Yes.
Like, I looked at talking to the press as a chore. It was a necessary evil, right? It was, you know, even Vice, who I had some and still have some hope that there might be something balanced coming out of that journalist and camera crew.
Yeah.
Right. I was much more interested in just talking with the people who were attending. That was really, and hanging out with them, and that is, I think, something that maybe that is the definition of grassroots. Is just being down in the trenches with the people who are there experiencing the problems, and not really giving a shit. Like the GQ guy, he must have asked me 4 or 5 times if there would be a point where I could talk to him. And finally, I think Erin was sitting on the couch in the lobby of the VFW, and I had gone, you know, I'd been out having a smoke, and the GQ guy was there, and he was talking to other people, and he'd already asked me 4 or 5 times if I'd have time to talk to him. And finally, and then I came in, and I went back out, and he was gone, and I was just like, fuck it, Erin, let's just go. Let's just go. He can fuck himself. Right? I'm not going to go looking for him. Right?
Yeah, it wasn't really about like talking to the press, because you know that they're just there for a pound of flesh and some drama.
Right.
Oh, whatever.
But Rachel, like, I need to throw this to Rachel because she's trying to get through, and I know we need to at least answer a few questions, right?
Yeah. We've got a couple questions. And let's see what's a good one to start off with.
Square meter.
What? How many rape per... Oh, gosh, yeah.
How many rapes per square meter at the conference?
Yeah.
I was so goddamn busy during that conference, my rape quotient went down significantly.
It was an orgy. An orgy, I tell you.
You know what I really hate about the patriarchy? Is that no matter how much you rape as a woman, you never get any credit for it. Not a single shred of freaking credit for it. You can rape from... It's misogyny. You can rape from sunup to sundown, and you could be doing dozens and dozens of rapes, but one man does one rape, and who gets all of the credit? Who gets all of the attention? I'm telling you.
And we are here to end that kind of in this world. Women are just as capable of rape as men, and I'm sick and tired of them being robbed of credit.
Me too.
Gotcha.
Women,
Yeah, we're.
women
Also-
have to rape harder than men do for the same credit.
I'm very disappointed with the amount I drank. There should have been at least several attempts.
Karen, I would agree.
there.
I didn't get my ass grabbed once. What the fuck?
Yeah, and me and Crystal were shooting in the bed together.
Like there,
I wasn't even drunk, and I passed out in the car on the way home. Nothing happened.
What does a woman have to do to get? Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. Crystal and I were in the same bed together, and I never made any moves on her once, but my leg did. Apparently, my leg.
Well, you tried to push me off the freaking bed in the middle of the night.
Accident, okay?
I'm totally disowning you guys. Not one move. Come on.
You do what you have to do. Hannah.
Like okay? All
right, guys, silly place. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, we're moving on.
Okay, no brakes on the rape train, guys.
There are no brakes on the rape train.
Okay, these questions are actually rather intertwined, so I'm going to kind of put them simultaneously after each other and then just kind of let everyone loose on it. So it says, how much resistance was there to the conference from feminists? I didn't hear any fire alarms go off. And the second question was, any comments on the feminist troll Dark Horse swore? Apparently, Allison and Sage were chatting with her. Go!
Okay, all right. I'm going to say that I read her article on how that went down, and she, first of all, what she said about me was pretty mild compared to what she said about the older veteran gentleman who had been sitting with her and looked at her camera. But everything that she said about my encounter with her, was distorted and a lie. And the reality is she just sort of sprung the camera on me, and it wasn't actually, I wasn't glaring at her. I was just like, what are you doing? And then I actually tried to talk to her. I was originally talking to a guy who didn't identify as a men's rights activist, but did want to go to the conference to see what we were about. And he did say that although he was sort of turned off of the rhetoric online, he found us to be more of a welcoming group in person. And I was talking to him about my theories about, seeing women as reactive, as acted upon, and seeing men as actors, and how that relates to the gender issues that we see and how we could solve it and intervene to benefit both. And he was sort of positive about what I was saying, and I tried to bring her into it. So I was saying, when women are taught to see themselves as victims, when they're taught to see themselves as acted upon, and not see themselves as actors, is not seeing their role in creating society and having responsibility for society, the negative things come out of that. Fear for one, but also like an excessive focus on your appearance and feeling like that's your only value. And I thought that she would sort of get pulled in with that because it relates to some feminist concepts about self-objectification. But all she ever did was smile and nod. And I couldn't really go anywhere with that. She wouldn't respond to stuff that I said. She'd just smile and nod. And it was like, I'm trying to engage with you and trying to put out ideas that you might be interested in as a feminist, but you're not really responding on any level that we can create a dialogue. Although she did ask me if I was excited about all of the press, and I said no. I wasn't really excited because I felt like, how is it exciting to know that these people are going to take everything you say, they're going to look through it as a fine-tooth comb and find any way to make you look like a monster? Sure, you're getting a lot of attention when you're in a room with everyone spitting on you, but it's not really the kind of attention that you want. And she didn't really have anything to say to that. But I did actually try to engage her in conversation. I tried even beyond being polite, which is ironic because she's saying that because I was engaging and I only did enough to be polite, that somehow that made me a monster. It's because I'm polite, I'm a monster. And everything that she said about that encounter was distorted and a lie. So I really highly doubt, and she's offered no evidence that the older gentleman she was talking to did anything close to what she's alleging. And even if he did,
the older gentleman too is somebody who would have told her immediately, right off the bat, like he told everybody he interacted with, that he has a head injury, he is disabled, he has issues with memory, all kinds of stuff like that, right? You know, like he needs to be reminded where he is. He left his service dog at home because he was worried if there were protesters that that his service dog might not be able to cope, right? And that, you know, he was really in a vulnerable place as a man with a brain injury that makes him disabled without his service dog. And frankly, I think she took shameless advantage of him. I don't think if that was her camera, was that her camera?
I think the camera that I remember her pulling out was hers.
She's saying he had a camera too.
Okay, you know what? I don't believe for a second that he took pictures of her body parts as if he was objectifying her. I spoke to that man several times. He was nothing but polite, reasonable, nice, kind, right?
Yeah, I spoke to him. He was a terrific guy.
He's a little bit
bullshit.
He's a little awkward because he has a brain injury.
I gotta say something about the way she described the photography. She described him as using a wide-angle lens. And then she described specific body parts being photographed. Now, if that were the case, then he would have had to get closer with the camera, which would have been quite noticeable to everyone else around them. That isn't believable. Even if you don't know the guy, even if you know nothing about the guy, have no idea who she's talking about, and it's just a girl accusing a guy.
She would have been invited.
Yeah, that's not believable. That's the first thing. The second thing is, she just insulted every woman who is an adult, who is trying to be viewed as an adult, by engaging in a conversation with an adult, a conversation that she initiated. She sought out that attention and then turned around and made up a story. Or even if there was some remote chance that she's, got pictures taken of her and stuff like that, which I still don't believe. Even then, that is a completely innocent thing. That is not something that anybody should be upset about, except him, because he's the one that was lied to. He's the one who was associated with and flirted with under false pretenses. And what she did was predatory. Absolutely predatory.
Yeah, she's a sexual predator.
She picked on the most vulnerable person in the room and played up her looks and walked in there and interacted under false pretenses, won his trust, and then turned around and shit on that trust. That is exactly, that kind of behavior in women is exactly why there are men going their own way. This is why there are men not marrying. She exemplified exactly what Allison was talking to her about. She did exactly what you said, Allison. She self-objectified, and now she's damseling over what she did to herself.
She damseled the entire time, though. I mean, from what I understand, at least from, I guess, hearing from security and stuff like that, she tried to get in on the first day, and she wouldn't provide press credentials, right? You were on security, weren't you, Hannah?
Yeah, I wasn't there the day that she tried to get in on Thursday before I was there. Yeah. And I guess she probably tried to get in on Friday and was turned away, but I was not at the door at the time.
Yeah, she demanded she demanded a press pass, and she wouldn't pay. I don't think, did she offer to pay for a ticket? I don't know.
She did offer to pay for a ticket, but obviously she was not a trustworthy person and could not get.
She said that she would donate the ticket amount to a charity.
That's right.
And that we could take that as her payment. But here's the deal, and for those idiots that may be calling themselves media that come to the next conference. We're not here to negotiate with you. We will issue press passes to those whom we believe are legitimate media. Those who are not, like Dark Horse, I don't care if she showed up with a wheelbarrow full of cash. It isn't her decision to negotiate our terms. She's going to have to hear what a lot of feminists don't like to hear. No. And that's exactly what she heard, and it's what she'll hear next year if she bothers trying to show up, which she shouldn't, because it's going to be a waste of her time.
And she damseled over that too. And the stupid thing is, her narrative on that is ridiculous. First it was, I should get in because I have credentials. Here are my credentials. And they weren't credentials. Then it was, well, I can't pay for a ticket because journalistic integrity, which she's demonstrated clearly that she does not have. But I'll weave my way around that journalistic integrity by donating to a cause you like. So, I mean, she's pretty much demonstrating over and over again that her moral compass is broken. And
Yeah.
Maybe we should have had fun and asked her and told her if she donated $350 to the moral majority, we would let her in. But
Didn't she announce online that she was looking to go there to make trouble?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's not just make
long
trouble.
post. A long post, like I think it was 3 pages on Reddit, and talking about her operation to fuck our shit up. And it was ridiculous. She damseled the whole time, out in the parking lot from what I understand. I mean, she was our lone protester.
oh yeah, she damseled in the parking lot in her pajamas.
It wasn't in the parking lot. It was actually outside the police tape. She was not allowed in the parking lot. And as I was pulling out of the venue with Aaron Pizzey in the passenger seat, or no, it was Senator Cools in the passenger seat and Aaron Pizzey in the back seat and Danny Boy. She was there giving an interview with Vice and hamming it up for the camera and, you know, and just trying to make herself look as cute as can be, cute as a button. And while I was trying to turn left out of there, they were blocking my line of sight for traffic. I asked them to move, and what did they do? They pulled the camera in and pointed the camera right in the driver's side window, you know, so they could catch who was in the car, right? Leaving the venue while we were interviewing the Dark Horse.
oh my God.
It was ridiculous, right?
Scandalous.
Oh.
I hope you felt like one of the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
no.
I just point something out?
I was slightly annoyed because they were still in the way of my line of sight to turn left into traffic.
Yeah, that was pretty dangerous.
She put her intentions out to be predatory in a sexual way. Now, why wouldn't a conference have an absolute right to say, if you are going to be predatory in a sexual way, then you do not get to come in? Because
We can say, and we will, anytime we get the urge, you can't come in because it's fucking Friday and I don't want you to.
That needs to be a new weekly celebration. It's fucking
Oh, gosh.
Friday.
Yeah,
That's
fucking
right.
yeah. Put it on the calendar.
We don't need a reason. We had a reason not to have her in there, but we don't need one. That conference, and we worked this out with the city attorney of St. Clair Shores, while we leased that hall, as far as they were concerned legally, that whole premises was our property. We don't have to let anybody in. We don't want to. We don't have to have a reason. I could tell her legally, I won't let you in because you're a woman. And nobody would be able to do anything about it. It's private property. Of course, that would never be my reason for not allowing somebody. But for her, the sense of entitlement and the narcissism that it takes to think, well, I'll just make them this offer or that offer, and she really thinks that will put us in a corner. No. Make us any offer you want, and our response is no thank you, get the fuck out. And that's what it's always going to be for an individual like that. She was trying to incite violence against me online. Why would I let her?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think part of what she was doing with the whole stalking thing, I think part of the reason for that was because by that time she was desperate. She had financial backers. She begged for bucks online. She damseled for dollars, and they paid her to be the poor little innocent victim. And then she didn't have anything because she didn't get into the conference. So she had to follow all of us out to the bar, out to, after the conference when we're not involved in the conference anymore, and hide and stalk and record.
She did not follow you all out from the conference in the bar. I did not talk to this woman. When she walked into the lobby of the Marriott, I was about to go sit down with Cassie J. and do my interview with her in an alcove off the lobby. The person that I saw her enter the hotel lobby with was someone who looked strikingly similar to Jessica Roy of Time. They walked in together. She walked in with another woman with a blonde ponytail who looked strikingly like Jessica Roy, someone who was there with a press pass during the conference, who I had seen repeatedly there. She walked into the lobby of the hotel with that person. They split up, right? Yeah. I looked over at her and I went, then I looked over at whoever was sitting next to me. I forget who it was, and I said, I think that's the dark horse, right? I recognized the person that she was with as one of the people with a notepad and a pen who had been attending the conference the entire time. A woman with a blonde ponytail who looked strikingly like Jessica Roy. I could not probably pick her out in a lineup, but you never know. You get her in the same clothes, I would probably be able to pick her out.
Yeah. But she
she still invaded. She still
she sucked.
She still went through extraordinary measures to get something. It was quite obvious to me that that's why, because she had not gotten. She came to get dirt. She was digging for dirt.
Yes, she didn't
find anything.
And tried to make some too, didn't she?
And she tried to create some.
She was brought there by, at least 90% certainty, she was brought there by a mainstream journalist.
Yep. And I heard GQ guy might have been there in the same area too. So basically, I mean, it's really ridiculous that they were even talking to her, but it's really kind of sad though, because she was the lone protester. She was the one who was damseling out there and just making this whole thing into this big drama. Yeah. Anyway.
One of the things that we're going to do over the next year before we have the next conference is spend a lot of energy, and I mean a very concentrated amount of it, ridiculing the media for the fact that they've done this. I mean, the amount of coverage on this has been insane. It's 3 times what I could have hoped for. And all of that, and they haven't talked on camera in any of these news stories to a single MRA. They bring on MRA critic after MRA critic after MRA critic. Next year, if the media wants in, they're going to have to talk to us and agree to air it. And if they won't, fuck them.
Yeah, well, what I found illuminating was the MSLSD piece. I don't think that either of those women who were so desperate to figure out where we're coming from, I don't think either of them actually watched or listened to any of the presentations. They looked at the roster, right? They looked at the topics, and they went with their preconceived notions. I don't think that they listened to a single talk, because if they had listened, even if they had been of the opinion that this is an anti-feminist conference, if they had listened to my talk or Senator Cool's talk, or even Warren Farrell's talk, even though I took issue with him, much to everybody's umbrage, right? They would have understood why we're anti-feminists.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question for everybody here, because what we're doing now is we're going through the process of looking at all of our mistakes from this conference, seeing how we can improve on them, and how we're going to integrate those things into the next conference. One of the things that just sort of an idea that popped in my mind as we were speaking here this evening, and I would like to get input from Allison, from Karen, from all of you on what you think about this. What I'm thinking is that maybe for the next conference, we will allow them we're going to be live streaming it much more effectively and much more professionally next time. We're going to allow them into the press conference that we're going to hold where they can ask questions. And then maybe, what do you think about just kicking their asses out and making the rest of the conference for the attendees only?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds good, because there were so many times where I really wanted to just talk to my fellow MRAs, and it was constantly rushing between the media and the MRAs, and I just wanted to continue the conversation. There was amazing conversations I was having with the men and women there, and I didn't get to be that as much as I wanted to. So I think that's a great idea.
And if they want to cover something, they can get it from the live stream.
Yes,
Right.
They can watch it on live stream. They can have access at the press conference. On press conference day, we can give them all the interviews they want. But you know what? These conferences are about the attendees. They are our time to not just connect with people that we've seen online and talk to online, but to form real friendships with each other and to get and we can't do that near as effectively with these idiots in the way asking us stupid questions about, what about women couldn't vote in 1920? I mean, that's still the level these boneheads are operating at. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to bring it to the team, and I'm going to say I got positive feedback for the idea from you guys that we allow them a press conference, we allow them interviews on one day, and the rest of the time they need to get out of our way so that
I think that's great.
Our community can have
I haven't been to a lot of different venues, but I've been to Cities and Villages conventions, and I've been to Origins, and I've been to a couple of other events like that. And it's never crawling with press. And when I was press, which I was very small time press, I worked for a newspaper that had a circulation of like 3,000. But I went to sporting events and I went to political events and everything. We were corralled into specific areas. You didn't just go anywhere you wanted to. Even at a track meet, you didn't go anywhere you wanted to. You had specific areas that you could go and do your job, and you didn't harass people.
I would be okay with them being there observing, but they need to leave people alone, right?
Yeah.
Like they can be there observing, but no cameras running, no notepad out.
Yeah.
And no questions. The trick is, if you let them in the door, these scummy bastards will do what they want to do once they're in the door.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't even matter, because look at what happens when they actually are exposed to everything that we say. What do they come back with? Completely alternate universe type bullshit, right? So, I mean, like, did you read what they got? I forget what website it was, but they were recounting a point that Stefan Molyneux had made. And it was about a woman from the audience had talked about single mothers and how they have stress and blah, blah, blah. And he said, you know why that stress defense does not move me? Why I don't consider that is because there's no stress defense for hitting your wife. And the power disparity between a husband and a wife, right? The wife chose the man. The wife is free to leave. Right, the power disparity between a parent and a child. The child did not choose the parent. The child is not free to leave. The power disparity is even greater, right? And if there is no excuse to hit your wife, then there is no excuse to hit your child, right? Those were his words, right? I do not give that defense that stress made you do it to anybody. Not a man hitting his wife, not a mother hitting her child. right? And it was twisted in the media that he was bemoaning that there was no stress defense for men who hit their wives. He was complaining that men don't have the excuse of stress when they hit their wives, right? Like this is like this person sat through his talk, and this was the message they got from his talk.
I'm going to offer a possibly.
Allison.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to offer possibly a slightly counter idea. I mean, there was a little bit of good that came out of some of that, the press wandering around, and that was it was only like a small inkling. But the Refinery 29 article, when she talked to Crystal and Rachel, or Crystal, Rachel, and Jess, she did have a few positive things to say.
Right.
And it was the entire article was a wash of negative, but there was a few moments of a glimmer of light, and so there was a small amount of positive from them being able to circulate. But
I just think that they aren't going to do any more damage to us, whether they're going to say the same
shit. It's not about the damage,
and whether we keep them out.
Yeah.
It's not about the damage. It's about, I'm serious. I really, really wish I'd had a few more minutes to spend with Karen. Haven't seen her since November in Toronto or whatever, September. When we were in Toronto. First time I met Allison, I didn't say 3-4 words to her the whole time. First time I met Crystal, I managed maybe 5 minutes with James Huff. I think that that's part of a conference experience that can help us have people leave the conference feeling connected and like they want to work with each other. So when it comes to the future of the activism, I think maybe, and again, I'm very slowly learning not to make unilateral decisions at AVFM, which is still very hard for me because I'm used to being in charge. But in the end, I think where my mind is leaning on this right now is that we need to create something really remarkable again for these conference goers, and so that they can have time with us too. Because
Well, you could always make restrict the press to specific times during the day and then kick them out after.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Because then they can circulate and maybe get that kind of because I think part of the thing that was positive about the Refinery 29, and again it was mostly negative, was that they did have some time to just interact on a personal level. And I think a lot of these people they don't interact with the concept so much as the people. And if you present at least a little bit of space for them to just interact and get to know you a little bit, that's what I was getting, because I wasn't actually there. I was picking up Yule, so
that's why you're 17 times smarter than me, because you come up with really good ideas. That is a good idea.
This is actually a thing too, right? Like, because when I'm sitting next to some 70-year-old lady on a plane, right, heading out to some conference, and she says, "Oh, where are you going?" And I talk to her about where I'm going and what I'm doing, and going to a libertarian conference in Wisconsin, or I'm going to this or that in wherever, right? And what are you speaking about? And I talk about it, and I blatantly say, I'm an anti-feminist, and I am a critic of feminist theory, and I am an advocate for men and boys, and I think that blah, 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 right? And because they see me, because they're stuck in a seat in a plane next to me, and I'm polite, and I got up, and I helped her put her bag up in the carry-on, and all of those little human things that people do, right? Because she saw me as human first, and then I introduced what I do, right? Then all of a sudden she's willing to consider my point of view, right? And I have never had a conversation on a plane with anyone about where I was going and what I was going to be speaking about, who had any problem with it. Most of them were actually in agreement with everything that I said.
This is a thought. I'm just throwing it out there. What about having the press circulate and talk to us, and then having the press conference at the end?
They might have.
That has upsides and downsides. There's always going to be that, it's sort of like that unfortunate guy that was touching people.
Yeah.
He touched me while we were there, which I'm still getting over.
You are. Are you sure?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't.
Maybe we should allow you to go because you probably have to see your therapist or something, Paul.
Well, no, actually, I've got a slot on Oprah and a Kickstarter.
He stroked your arm, and that's a really.
No, he actually stroked the back of my head on my neck. And
oh my God!
He told me not to worry, that he was only imagining kissing me all over my naked body.
Yeah, that's never going to get mentioned on the Frisky now, is it?
Probably not. And you know what? I still wasn't assaulted. This was a sad guy. He was lonely, and I did not kick him out at the time. The reason that he got kicked out is because we had yellow journalists at Metro News in Detroit saying they went to the conference and got molested. I had to sacrifice this poor guy to that, and I'm still pissed off.
Well, I think, did that reporter ever approach anyone on the security team or anything and say, hey, this guy's doing blah, blah, blah? Or did he just save that priceless moment he described, if it really happened, and use it as writing fodder? Did he walk out of a conference with over 100 people there, knowing that there was somebody there that he was going to call a molester, and didn't say anything to anybody or warn anybody? Did he actually do that?
No. What he did was get his story and left and wrote it. He didn't tell anybody on our security team. He didn't make any kind of complaint. He wanted this guy out there doing that stuff. I'm sure he got close enough to him to make sure that the guy did his deal, which again, I'm not approving of. But listen, I watched this guy. I was a foot and a half from him. I talked to him. He was obviously on psychotropic medications. He was obviously a victim of some pretty profound mental illness, and he was fucking harmless. He was not hurting anybody. He was inappropriate. That was it.
Yeah. I didn't figure that he was, but my point is, if this reporter thought that he was, right, if he really thought that he was, either, he would have come forward and said something to somebody to prevent
one would
further behavior, right? Or if he thought what he said was, if he thought that, and he walked away and just left everybody hanging, to face this guy that he thought was dangerous or creepy or whatever, that's pretty shitty.
Oh, it is.
What kind of an asshole walks away like that?
Here's the thing. I'm going to say again.
GQ magazine told me face to face. I don't know if this will make it into his article, but he told me that he saw that and thought it was the most disgusting journalism he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
So whatever Jeff does at GQ, at least he's not going to be complaining about being molested.
Well, yes. Honestly, I talked to 5 guys who had interactions with that guy. Yeah. About 5 guys. And all of them were just like, oh, yeah, so he sort of started to make an overture. And I scooched my chair.
Guys, we got 7 minutes left. We got to get some of these questions done.
And then he moved it closer. And then finally, after about 3 times, I was like, dude, you got to go somewhere else. Right? And then somebody eventually reported it. Right?
Elbows.
But none of these guys.
Karen.
None of them were worried.
Question.
Questions. Okay. Okay. Quick. Worst media piece on this. Best media piece on this. Go. Quick.
I think the worst one is probably the one that we've just talked about.
Yeah.
The best one so far is PJ Media and USA Today.
I got to
Yeah, I
say,
would agree.
the best one so far, I think, is Fox News' interview with Suzanne Banker.
Oh, that was a good one.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that one yet.
Oh,
It
you
is
should watch.
awesome.
There.
It's
Okay,
on
okay.
the site. Go watch it. If you have not seen it, go to the site and look in the bulletins, and you will see a headline that says Fox News on it. It is an interview with Suzanne Banker where both of the interviewers asked real questions, allowed her to answer, and she represented us really, really well.
And she's not even a speaker. She
Can-
wasn't even a speaker. She was just there because she was invited, but she was specifically invited, but she was just there as a person who sat on the press conference and, like she was not a speaker.
Here's a question I'd like to answer. Sorry could you give us an overall account of the way the journalists were, and were there any open-minded interviewers who have upcoming articles worth watching out for?
There's a possibility that Jeff with GQ Magazine is going to do a balanced or reasonably balanced piece. But my observation of Jeff, quite honestly, is that he's not necessarily a Radpin type or anything like that. I believe he believes in gender equity, but I also think that I have to temper that by saying he's very much a brainwashed blue pill addict.
He's not ready. He's not ready.
He's not
Yeah.
ready to understand this movement. So
That felt really iffy.
that's really will be reflected in his piece, I'm sure, will be his ignorance of what these issues really are. And I don't say that to disrespect him. I had a couple of drinks with the guy. I liked him. I mean, personally, he's a guy I could have a beer with and I enjoy talking to. But he does not understand what he was covering.
I think
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah, we were
when
all-
I
Vice, the girl from Vice, Alex, she might actually present a balanced piece.
Yeah.
She was there for the documentary, and she might actually do us some justice. Just from when I was sort of watching her interact with Crystal and Jess and Allison and the others, and she's like, "No, you bring up a lot of great points." And that was just something that I overheard as I was walking by, right? So, I think she might actually be, and it's really telling that you have a female journalist who may be more open to what we're saying as a movement than the guy from GQ or any other male. Like,
she might get fired for it, but
well, she's not. I mean. Well, I won't say anything, but we'll see what happens with her. I think she was a little bit baffled by some of the stuff that was said, and she couldn't relate to it.
The woman that interviewed me from the Washington Post was even stupider than Jessica Roy. She was the dumbest journalist I've ever spoken with in my life. I don't mean that. I'm not being ableist here. I'm not making fun of retarded people. I would not insult people with mental handicaps by comparing them to the woman from the Washington Post. She is a moron of the third degree, and I feel it is just scary what passes for a journalist in this day and age.
All right, I'm going to sum it up real quick and then go to the next question. I would say overall that the journalists were, some of them you could tell they were a little more open, but others they knew the story that they were going to write when they went in, and they wrote that story. Some of them even met with us, like the Badgers, and they just didn't even write about us at all. They didn't acknowledge us or anything. They just kind of swept us under the rug like everything else. But Allison, more questions? From your channel?
My channel. I have one question. One question that I probably should answer. And just a sec, I'm getting it up. Is Allison so short because of the patriarchy?
Yes.
No. Karen, that is a misnomer. I'm actually so short because of the patriarchy.
Or the patriarchy.
No, okay, the patriarchy is what determined that Allison would have a problem with wheat. And because Allison has a problem with wheat, she's
Sure.
not-
Patriarchy. I thought that's why my ass was so big.
Yeah, that's the thing. That my ass makes me look short. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
And there's the question: does this patriarchy make my ass look fat?
And let's not forget the cake culture. I mean, right up there with Warren Farrell's cake.
Oh, cake culture.
Oh,
like,
now we got cake.
I love men's rights like a fat kid loves cake. That's cake culture right there.
Yeah, I know. Oh
Okay,
man,
take it away, Rachel.
No, Crystal had a question.
Well, this is actually kind of a question for everybody, including Paul. There was some, where was the commenting? I don't know where you commented, Paul, but I commented under. There was a black man responding to Paul, and then I was responding to them, and people were saying that I was Paul Elam because I'm a black and Puerto Rican female, and there's no way I could be an MRA. So I kind of have a question for all of you, I guess, for everybody who's Caucasian. How does that show up for you when people say that the people in the movement who are Caucasian, that the only reason they're in the movement is because of some form of quote unquote supremacy reality, which is obviously not true. And I personally find it insulting. But I want to hear, how does it show up for you guys? Because I feel like we're
only half white.
I feel like, well, I know you're Puerto Rican too, but I feel like we're entering in this kind of reality where it's become acceptable to be anti-Caucasian. So I'm curious for myself how it shows up for people, and how it shows up for Paul, and how it shows up for all of you to hear this kind of bigotry, and how do you deal with that? How do you respond to that and not get enraged and not be like, hey, this is completely unacceptable, you're being a bigot? So that's my question.
Well, I don't let stupidity enrage me. We can educate the ignorant. It's better to ignore the stupid. But when it comes down to this, one, I can say as somebody who is purely white male, which I mean, I'm evil from head to toe in both my skin color and in my heart.
Penis. And in your penis.
Yeah, your privilege is overflowing, Paul.
My penis, which is also
It's
white.
spewing it.
Well, depending on the condition it's in. But let's just look at it this way. There was a rumor for 2 years that Dr. T and I were the same person. I had actually taken the time to create a sock puppet that wrote about 2,000 articles from the perspective of a clinical psychologist with red hair. You will get accusations. The women will get accusations that you're really mean. I think the solution to that is something we're already doing. Now Dr. T has appeared to speak at the same venue as I, and it's going to be very hard to perpetuate that rumor. We need images of Crystal out there. We need her to come participate and lend her voice to things. But when it comes to that, how do I feel as a white guy? I don't feel anything as a white guy. I feel stuff as a human being, and that is not blowing smoke up anybody's ass. And and sometimes I realize that people of different colors don't have the luxury of getting their race. I do. But the fact of the matter is, I just see idiots, and I look the other way.
All right, we got to get Allison in real quick.
Okay,
go.
I just wanted to say there's sort of a something that's sort of directed at you, Crystal, that seems really nasty to me, because implicit in that is the idea that white people can have pretty much any opinion they want, but people of color can only have certain opinions.
Right.
And it's like, well, like most forms of bigotry, it goes both ways, right?
Well, but often I think that people of color, there's the accusation of you're an Oreo or you're a zebra or you're whatever, right? Like that. Right. If you don't hold to this specific opinion, your own community will turn against you, right? Like, what?
Yeah, I've experienced that. I grew up with that. I've actually I've experienced racism from kind of a little bit of everywhere. I'm used to kind of being the outcast because of I used to have Latino and black girls who would come up to me and say, "You speak like a white girl," and I would be ostracized because of the way I speak. And I finally got to the point where I was like, "Well, actually, I speak like an educated person, and I'm sorry you only think that white people are educated. That's kind of your shit." They stopped talking to me about after that, but. I've experienced it for a little bit of everywhere because I was either not dark enough or not light enough. And so kind of, to me, I see it as all bullshit, really. So when I see people kind of approach Caucasians in a certain way, I get really pissed off. It is the same way as I would see anybody approach a certain way because of their skin color. I see that there seems to be a certain type of that's excusable, and I don't buy that shit. But yeah, I actually was talking to a couple of feminists, one in particular, who's saying that Senator Cools and the rest of us black people in the movement, we're not making the correct decision. Fuck you. Because I am a person regardless of my skin color, and you don't have a fucking right to tell me that because I'm black and Puerto Rican, because that I am not making correct decisions for myself. Go fuck yourself. You don't get the chance to tell me that my decisions are incorrect. I've had feminists tell me, oh, well, don't forget that black people experienced slavery, and fuck you. I mean, that's a part that fucking enrages me when I hear a feminist tell me not to forget that what black people experienced. Fuck you. Because fuck you so fucking hard. Because how would I forget that? When I watched that growing up, the experience that I had to process, I didn't even, I think that when we share these we share this history, there should be some kind of process that helps us through it, because there was a time where after watching what happened with the lynchings and all that stuff, I didn't even talk to my Caucasian friends because I was so pissed off, and I didn't have a way to process it. But then I eventually got through it. But I think these things need to be expressed and shared in, this is what happened throughout history to people throughout history. And we cannot hold it against each other, because if we do, we start to silence yet another group, and we continue with our justifications for silencing another group because of some historical pain. So I get really pissed off because I feel it's extremely racist for feminists to tell me, oh, well, you're not making a correct decision because you're black. Fuck you. I'm a person. Regardless of the fact where I'm black, Puerto Rican or not, I know what I stand for.
I just have a problem with feminists who want to say that women and black were the same thing.
Fuck that.
Black were the same thing. Yeah, no.
That has got to rank in the top 3 levels of stupid for feminism, that they equate themselves with the African American civil rights movement.
Okay.
Okay. Up about it.
All right, we gotta wrap it
pull
up.
it back. Yeah, we gotta wrap it up. But they're telling us we gotta wrap it up.
Let me say one thing real quick, and then I'll get out of everybody's way so you can wrap up. I just want to offer a word of advice to Crystal. We have people, lots of them at AVFM, that can help you learn how to express the way you feel more directly, and so that you can quit beating around the bush so much. If you ever want some help with that, you just email me, and I will hook you up with somebody who will help you learn how to assert yourself a little bit.
Thank you. I definitely needed that pointer. Thank you.
You are way too timid, Crystal. Way too timid.
Like, you don't know where I come from, where I've been. Gosh, full of Tyra. But anyway, we gotta pull it back. Allison, go with your Patreon.
Okay. So there's been some expressed some interest in the leftover rewards that we had for the fundraiser. If you have an interest in them, we are now offering them as incentives for our Patreon page if you want to become a patron. And just if you need some incentive, the reality is that we use our donations to help build a platform to increase the scope and the signal volume of this idea that we have, that men and women can work together to make a better world. That it doesn't have to be men versus women. It doesn't have to be a blame game. That we can look at each other as human beings, all in it together, and we can start fixing the problems that men have. And also, in the process of fixing the problems that men have, we can start to address some of the issues that women have in being seen as victims. And so, if you want to help us build this platform and increase our signal volume, please consider donating. Our patron page, you can go to Patreon. It's I'm going to probably misspell this, patreon.com, and do a search on Honey Badger Radio. The incentives are basically leftovers from our fundraiser. Do consider it. I know that we've already asked through the fundraiser, and you probably are tapped out right now, but maybe consider it in the coming months. And it's everything.
Screw that.
Yeah.
Don't consider it. I can't believe. I know that there's some people out there that are flat broke, and I totally understand that. But you can give $5 to these activists through Patreon that the ideas that she just furthered about men and women working together as equals on an equal playing field as human beings with each other. You can spare $5 for that. I'm going to go put in a donation tonight, and I hope others will as well.
Just so you know, before you offer, it is ongoing. So it's like Patreon. It's a monthly thing. So you might want to back out of that. But there's a $2 option too. Like, just even $2 would be fantastic. Like if 100 of you give us $2, we got our Libsyn covered, we got our website covered, and maybe we can do a bit of a kickback to the guy Sage who's working diligently in the background to make an incredible website and keep it updated.
You hear that, Futrell? Kickbacks. There's your next whatever the fuck story.
Is it a kickback? I mean, the reality is there's so many people who donate so much labor to help us, and anyway, I'm wittering.
Yeah, we're killing James. We gotta wrap it up. Well, thank you to everybody that helped with the conference, everybody that put it together, and our viewers, and everybody that donated to help us get to the conference. Thank you so much. We can't even begin to tell you how grateful we are and how just happy we were to just be together and just to be present for this historic event. Thanks, everybody, and we'll be back next Thursday?
Yep, next Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday, same Badger time, same Badger channel. Good night and good luck.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio, radio with bite.